Today I'm going to show you how to remove the carburetor from a 2003 Polaris Scrambler 500. This may look a little bit complicated, guys. This is actually pretty easy. I might have 5 minutes worth of work left here removing this. Pretty simple job. But obviously I've done some preliminary work before I got here. I've removed the plastic, the front plastics, the gas tank, and the airbox. So just to get you caught up on how I got here, first thing you just take off the plastics. I removed the 6 nuts on the fender and the 2 on the side of both sides of it. I removed the 1 bolt in the front, and I separated the front half like this from these rivets where it's slotted here, and that way I could get it around the handlebars and the axle, the front steering shaft. I removed the boot for the gear selector, removed the gas cap, remove the nut for your clutch cable, your choke cable. Okay, remove both nuts, that nut, remove the nut from your ignition switch, and then you can this whole assembly comes loose. You can slide it through the hole in your plastic. You don't have to remove the harness. Next is the gas tank. Okay, we're gonna have 2 bolts here, 2 bolts with these spacers, and all this god-awful foam that's all falling apart. So just get rid of all that stuff. It's pointless at this point, and save your spacer and your washer. 2 of them you got to take off. And then come over here, and we're going to make sure we have our fuel turned off. And we're going to come up here and disconnect this hose here. Okay, a hose on top. I don't know if this is a filter or check valve here. It's got an arrow on it pointed that direction. This is the hose that's coming from your gas tank. Okay, just disconnect this here. At this point, you can just hold this hose down here and open your valve, and you can drain out your tank if you want to, or you can just simply pull on this spring and disconnect that from the bottom of your gas tank. Right, at that point your gas tank's just gonna lift up and slide out. You can see there's 2 tabs in here that match 2 holes in the front where those go into. Right, so gas tank's out. The airbox, there's 2 bolts, 1 bolt here, 1 bolt there. The bolts for your gas tank are 7/16 socket, and these are 3/8 socket. 2 bolts, 1 clamp here on the carburetor itself. You access the screw from this side most likely, and there's 2 push-on hoses that you got to remove, and the whole airbox assembly comes out as 1 piece. Okay, there's where your 2 hoses go, and this is your clamp, and then you'll be right here where I'm at now. Okay, like I said, this may look a little complicated. It's really not. Some people like to remove the bracketry and lift the carburetor up to work on this. I prefer to do it in place because it's kind of like an extra set of hands. So a lot of this I'm going to take loose, holding the camera in one hand and doing the work in the other. So, but to show you what we have to disconnect off the carburetor to get it loose, we have the main fuel line that's coming in to the carburetor. We have a vent line we have to take loose. We have the throttle cable. We have the choke cable. And we also have a vacuum line that's driving the fuel pump. All right, from there we just have the brackets on the back and the clamp on the front. So I'm going to start with what's the most trickiest part, which is this choke cable. It's really not as hard as it seems, but everybody's confused because you can't seem to get a wrench down here properly. It's a 12mm, okay? Everything on this bike is standard English size, but this is a Japanese carb, so like I said, people are grinding down the wrench and trying to get this in here. Look, I'm going to show you a little trick. Instead of trying going directly onto it, slide your wrench into this section of it, and then move it over into place, okay? Once you have it in place, it'll be on a slight angle, but it'll be enough that you should be able to push down and loosen that choke. Okay, there it goes. Once you loosen it that little bit, it's going to be loose. You're not going to have any problems with it after that. You're probably not even going to need a wrench. You just have to turn it by hand. Okay, and your other option is going to be to move this back. And you can see there's also another fitting here that'll fit either a 5/16 or 8mm, whichever you have. All right, and you're just going to thread this all the way out. Reach here with my finger and just turn it. It's a lot quicker than using the wrench. The hardest part is getting a wrench on it to begin with. This is what baffles everybody, how to get your wrench on there. Pull this out. And see, we have a spring-loaded little plunger. That's all this thing is. All right, we can move that out of the way. And we're going to go, while we're right here, we're going to remove this vacuum line. These little clamps can be real fiddly. Use a needle nose pliers, okay? Get that on the clamp. Squeeze them all down evenly. Move them up out of your way. It makes these clamps real easy using the right tool, okay? Got the clamp off. Get that hose off. Move over to the other side. Just gonna take a flat blade screwdriver in here and kind of, excuse me, try to get you a good angle. Pry that vent line off right there. This is your little hose that just hangs down to the ground. Now we have this fuel line that has the same clamp on it down there. Now I'm going to reach down from the top. I might get the right angle on it. Reach down from the top here. Excuse me, I hit the button. And reach down from the top here and grab that clamp just like I did the other one. I keep my fingers out of the way. I'm trying to hold the hose and the camera, everything out of the way, and lift that clamp up out of the way. And I'm just gonna stick a little rag under there. There's bound to be a little bit of fuel come out of this. Not really, nothing came out. There's my fuel line. Okay, so only thing I have left is my throttle cable. And I'm gonna pull this thing back. I'm gonna show you this part. I'm gonna reset up the camera over there to show you how to get your throttle cable loose. Same thing, 5/16 wrench for this. This is, we're gonna unscrew this once we disconnect the cable inside. Okay, so I'm gonna get the camera set up on that side and we'll come back and I'll show you that. I couldn't get a good camera angle on removing that throttle cable, so I'll show you here in just a second how to get that loose. I did remove the plate. There's 3 screws that hold it on. They're very, very tight. Definitely want to soak those in some penetrating oil before you try taking them off. So go ahead and get this the rest of the way off. Got 2 Phillips screws in the back of this bracket here. Same thing. You're probably going to want to soak them in penetrating oil because they're going to be real tight. Same thing. We don't want to strip. They're just Phillips head screws, so we don't want to strip them off. Take these 2 screws loose. I'm going to remove the 2 nuts, 7/16 nuts. Hold this bracket on. Nuts and a lock washer here. Hopefully we can maneuver this whole bracket completely out of our way. I don't know yet, but we're going to try. If I can get the lock washer off. Okay. I see. I was wondering about that. Yeah, we can force it off enough to get it off. Okay, Now we just have a short screwdriver here. Take loose this clamp. Holding the front of the carburetor on. Maybe one of these days I'll have it loose enough. Okay. At this point, carburetor should just slip right out. Okay. And there it is. All done. Now let me show you this cable real quick. The cable comes through and attaches around this cam here into a bushing. So we have to get that cable up and off. And there's a slot right in there to get this cable out. So I'm gonna hold the throttle open if we can. And I'm kind of like one of these dental picks. Comes in real handy. You can reach in here and lift this out. Okay, just like so. You release the cable. Once you get it off, you can slide this bushing off the end. Okay, see how it goes in? Slide into the slot and hold into there. Remove that, and then you can unthread the cable from the carburetor itself. And there we are. There's our throttle, our carburetor. You see this thing's been leaking gas all over the place. It's covered in gunk, and I'm just spilling it out there too. So a gasket that you have around the outside of this. So next video I'm going to show you how to take this whole thing apart and show you all the problem areas and how to get your carburetor back working properly. So appreciate everybody watching. Thanks a lot.